there's a significant new character named Dementus.
Mm-hmm.
He's a warlord. Dementus is the most significant character in this movie for a variety of reasons. He's the character played by Chris Hemsworth who gives the movie character and shape. And I can't imagine the movie without him, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah. But also he's doing Chris Hemsworth stand-up. He is like talky.
Uh-huh.
And like no one else talks in these movies. And so in some ways he's like the contrast, and he like, you know, gives like a stoic power to the people who aren't saying anything. And in fact, at some point when Anya Taylor-Joy as Furiosa starts speaking, I found that very jarring. I was like, no. Actually, he's the loudmouth, and you just need to keep glaring at him. Well, he takes up a lot of space.
Both physically and emotionally in the story. It's an odd character. Most of the heavies and the villains are fairly quiet characters in the Mad Max films. He's the true new thing in the story, which is that he is both the muscle, the might, and the kind of like the anxiety of power that I think is a big part of these stories, where he's a person, he's kind of a classic, he's not quite the final boss. He's like the boss at the end of the level before you get to the final level in the video game.
Right.
And the whole movie is kind of organized around his desire to be in charge and to be at the center of power in the Citadel, to usurp Immortan Joe, to take over Gastown, to take over the Bullet Farm,
Mm-hmm.
like all these places, these worlds that we've seen over the last 5 movies. It's a really interesting choice. Hemsworth, an Australian, I imagine the Mad Max films are very important to him. I really like him as a performer. He's basically never gotten the chance to do this. He's often the guy who is the hero. So I can't recall if he's ever played the heavy in a movie. I don't think he has.
Is he in the Russo brothers Europe movie with Ryan Gosling that you hate?
No, that's Chris Evans.
Which other movie? Is he in Spiderhead?
He is in Spiderhead, and he is kind of the villain in Spiderhead. You're right.
Because the thing is that he's the villain, but he's still just wisecracking like Marvel Thor, basically.
He's doing the same smug routine.
And he's very good at that, and I find it very charming, but it is a very different vibe than everyone else, and really than the nature of these movies, which are very serious. Like everyone else in all 5 movies, except for maybe Tina Turner, is like very earnestly serious about, and even
there's usually a comic relief, but it's very rarely in the villain. Like the gyrocopter pilot in the second film is a sense of comic relief. I think like some of the henchmen of the toe cutter in the first film are comic relief. It's very rarely the main bad guy. Like Immortan Joe in Fury Road is just evil. Like he's evil. It's kind of a funny characterization and ridiculous character, but he's dangerous. Dementus is like kind of a goof.
Yeah.
And I really liked Chris Hemsworth in this movie, but you're right that we have not seen something like this in a Mad Max movie before.
But it is the tones of the movie. They take their stakes very seriously. Like we talked a lot about that with Dune and Dune 2, and what a difference that is from all the superhero stuff that we've been doing for the last 20 years, and like Chris Hemsworth has been pivotal in, of like, you know, to your winking action point. The Mad Max movies are like, no. This is like life and death and apocalypse and road war. And then Chris Hemsworth is like, well, you know.
It's a good point. I hadn't thought about it this way.
And I find that charming.
Yeah.
But it does somehow, for me,
de-escalates the stakes.
De-escalates the stakes of the rest of the film.
I think regardless of how the character is written in terms of like or the joke performance style that he's bringing to it, I think it's most interested in what he represents. I think it's most interested ideologically in this guy feels less than, and he's going to do terrible things so that he feels better than.
Yeah.
And that is basically what leads to like the fall of societies, is when people take on these outsized personas to dominate and hurt other people in the process, don't think about other people. George Miller clearly seems like very zeroed in on that. So we're spending all this time with this character we previously did not have a relationship with. And I think you're right. Like, is tonally a little bit different from Anya Taylor-Joy, who is playing like the classic gritted teeth Mad Max part. You know, the like, I don't speak, I am a warrior. We watch her like go through the paces of learning how to become a stronger and stronger woman inside of this cutthroat world. And you're right that the Hemsworth character feels somehow out of step with a movie that is working in that serious mold, especially a movie that opens almost exactly the same as Fury Road, where it has this portentous narration at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see that nuclear image of the black and white trees swaying as we feel the world ending, like the green disappearing from our planet. Like, that's exactly the same as Fury Road. So we're meant to go right back into that headspace. And then we see a guy with a fake nose cracking wise about his power.